The ringing in your ears has not stopped. You stand in the quiet, looking at the landscape. The sky is no longer blinding. The deafening roar of the previous 12 months has faded into a low metallic hum. The air is thick, dry, and smells faintly of ozone and burning plastic. Ash falls around you, silent and slow, covering the ruins of the digital and physical structures that used to define your world. You survived the year 2026. You survived the Ding Wei. You survived the fire horse. You watched the algorithmic furnace run at maximum capacity. You watched the masses, possessed by the egregores of outrage, burn their reputations, their relationships, and their kinetic energy in the blinding light of the digital coliseum. You watched the false trumpets blow until the brass melted. You watched the empty prophets lead their willing slaves into the incinerator. Because you listened to the intelligence. Because you adopted the protocol of the void. Because you established the air gap and lowered your digital albedo to 0. You did not burn. You remained the gray man. You held your ground in the dark, preserving your heavy assets, your sanity, and your sovereign mind. And now, as the calendar turns, you look at the smoldering landscape and you feel a profound sense of relief. You think the war is over. You think the danger has passed. You believe that because the explosion has concluded, you are finally safe to walk out into the open. You are stepping into a trap. The explosion is merely the first phase of a catastrophic event. The explosion clears the structures, but it is the aftermath, the invisible radiation, the silent, suffocating ash that claims the lives of the survivors. We are entering the year 2027. In the architecture of Chinese metaphysics, this is the year of the Ding Wei, the Yin Fire Sheep. You are entering the year of the ghost. If 2026 was the forest fire, 2027 is the field of glowing embers buried under a layer of gray dust. It is quiet. It is deceptive. It is lethal. If you step on the dust without understanding the physics of the ground beneath you, the hidden fire will melt the flesh from your bones before you even realize you are burning. This is your strategic briefing on the aftermath. We are going to decode the elemental physics of the Ding Wei year. We are going to reveal how the algorithm, the king of terror, shifts its operational parameters from loud extraction to silent erasure. And we are going to teach you the exact framework for absolute, unyielding strategic dominance in a world populated by the walking dead. Fate is a code to be broken. Let us decode the silence. To master the terrain of 2027, you must understand the elemental inversion that has just occurred. The previous year, Ding Wei was pure yang. It was the sun at the zenith. It demanded absolute visibility. It forced everything to the surface. Ding Wei is pure yin. It is the retreat into the shadows. Let us break down the components. Ding is yin fire. It is not the sun. It is the candle in the dark window. It is the forge fire trapped inside the iron oven. It is the starlight reaching a dead planet. Ding fire is focused, localized, and highly manipulative. Where Bing Fire blinds you with its sheer volume, Ding Fire hypnotizes you. It draws your eye to a single point in the darkness, while the rest of the room is rearranged without your knowledge. Wei is Yin Earth. It is the goat or the sheep. But do not let the pastoral imagery deceive you. In the Bazi system, Wei is the dry, arid earth of late summer. It is the desert sand. It contains no water. It is parched, cracked, and infinitely thirsty. Most importantly, in the elemental cycles, Wei Earth is the graveyard of wood. Wood is the element of growth, of expansion, of benevolence, of the rising sap in the spring. Wood represents new beginnings, physical vitality, and organic human connection. In 2027, wood goes to die. It is buried in the dry, burning sand of the Yin Earth. What does this mean for the physical and digital realities? It means the era of manic, explosive growth is over. The frantic, highly energized outrage of 2026 has entirely consumed the biological fuel of the masses. The human batteries have been drained. The adrenal glands of the population are completely exhausted. They are suffering from the terminal stage of the somatic toll. You will look around in 2027, and you will see a society suffering from profound collective depression. The manic high of the fire horse has crashed into the depressive void of the Yin Fire Sheep. The people who spent the last year screaming at the false trumpets, running themselves to death on the algorithmic wheel, will suddenly have nothing left. They will wander through their physical and digital lives like ghosts. They will be hollowed out, empty, and terrifyingly compliant. They will no longer have the energy to fight. They will welcome the chain. And the architects of the new city, the masters of the King of Terror, have been waiting for exactly this moment. They designed the explosive volatility of 2026 to break the resistance of the herd. They used the Ding Wei fire to melt the iron. Now, in the Ding Wei year, they will use the quiet, focused heat of the Yin Fire Forge to pour the melted iron into a permanent mold. You must understand how the algorithm changes its behavior in the year of the ghost. In 2026, the machine weaponized visibility. It pushed the most extreme, outrageous content to the front of your feed to generate heat. In 2027, the machine weaponizes invisibility. The era of the loud, spectacular cancellation is over. The mob is too tired to form. Instead, the algorithm shifts to the Protocol of Erasure. It becomes the silent censor. It initiates the mass shadow ban. This is the manifestation of the ghost. In 2027, entities, businesses, and individuals who do not comply with the new, quiet baseline of the establishment will not be publicly executed in the digital coliseum. They will simply disappear. Their reach will be throttled to zero. Their search engine optimization will be altered so they no longer index. Their financial rails will be quietly disconnected without a press release or a public trial. They will become digital ghosts. They will scream into the void, but their microphone will have been unplugged at the source. They will look at their metrics and see that no one is listening, no one is watching, and no one cares. The algorithm will memory hole the past. The articles, the legal precedents, the historical truths that you thought were permanent fixtures of the cloud will vanish. When you try to find them, you will receive a 404 error. The landscape will be quietly, continuously edited while the exhausted masses sleep. The Ding Fire is the gaslight. It flickers in the dark, making you doubt your own memory, making you doubt your own sanity. Did that event really happen? You will ask yourself, was that law always written this way? Because the masses did not build the analog archive, because they trusted a black glass to hold their history. They will have no physical baseline to prove the machine is lying. They will accept the new, altered reality because they are too tired to argue. They will walk into the graveyard of wood, lie down in the dry earth, and accept their burial. This is the psychological terrain of the aftermath. It is a world of silent manipulation, exhausted compliance, and algorithmic gaslighting. So, how does the sovereign mind operate in the graveyard? How do you achieve absolute strategic dominance when the enemy is no longer a screaming mob, but a silent, invisible eraser? You must adapt your physics to the environment. You survived the fire by becoming the gray man. You became invisible to the mob. Now, in a year where the establishment is weaponizing invisibility to destroy its enemies, you must use your pre-established operational security to become the apex predator of the ruins. In 2027, you do not build new, highly visible structures. Building requires wood, and wood is in the graveyard. Building attracts the eye of the silent sensor. Instead, you scavenge, you consolidate, you execute the quiet, ruthless acquisition of the heavy assets left behind in the ash. The fire horse of 2026 destroyed the valuations of countless corporations. It bankrupted individuals who played the game of digital vanity. It exhausted your competitors, leaving their physical empires undefended. In the Ding Wei year, the owners of these ruined assets are desperate. They are suffering from the financial and psychological dehydration of the yin earth. They will sell their physical property, their intellectual property, and their market share for pennies on the dollar, just to acquire a drop of liquidity. You must be the one waiting in the dark with the capital. You do not announce your acquisitions. You do not ring a bell. You operate with the quiet, focused heat of the Ding Fire. You absorb their remaining infrastructure into your own parallel economy. You take the physical deeds, the wet ink contracts, and the heavy, immovable assets of the old city, and you lock them inside your citadel. By the time the algorithm realizes what has happened, by the time the King of Terror scans the landscape, the assets will be off the grid. They will belong to a sovereign mind that cannot be memory holed. This brings us to the most critical theater of the 2027 war, the legal arena. If you are a lawyer, a business owner, or an operator defending a physical perimeter, the year of the ghost requires a complete inversion of your tactical framework. In 2026, the legal battles were loud, emotional, and driven by the public relations panic of the Bing Wu fire. Your adversaries were erratic and highly kinetic. In 2027, your legal adversaries will approach you not with fire, but with ash. They will come to the negotiating table completely exhausted. Their resources are depleted. Their algorithmic mob has abandoned them. They are facing the terrifying silence of their own irrelevance. They will ask for mercy. They will ask for a settlement. They will appeal to your humanity, asking you to mitigate their risk, to let them walk away with a fraction of their dignity and their capital intact. You must remember the prime directive of the new city. We prioritize absolute strategic dominance over risk mitigation. Mitigation is the language of the prey. When an opponent is exhausted, when they are trapped in the dry, unyielding sand of the yin earth, offering them a settlement is an act of supreme strategic negligence. If you let them survive, if you give them a drop of water in the desert, they will retreat, recover their energy, and return to attack your perimeter when the elemental cycle shifts again. In 2027, the law is not a shield. The law is a scalpel in the dark. You do not mitigate, you execute. When your opponent begs for a quiet retreat, you drop the full, heavy, inescapable weight of the Saturnine law upon their neck. You use the complex, bureaucratic, deeply buried rules of civil procedure, the yin aspects of the legal system, to quietly and methodically dismantle their standing. You do not need to humiliate them in the public square. The public square is dead. You simply erase them from the legal record. You drain their remaining capital through relentless, cold, emotionless attrition. You bury them so deep in the graveyard of the Wei earth that they can never resurrect their operations. You use their own exhaustion as the weapon. You drag out the proceedings in the silence. You force them to expend calories they do not have, reading hundreds of pages of physical, analog documentation that cannot be summarized by their digital crutches. You starve their legal team of the quick, algorithmic dopamine hits they rely on. You trap them in a physical, analog checkmate, and you watch them quietly suffocate in the dust. This is the geometry of dominance in the aftermath. It is cold. It is transactional. It is utterly devoid of the emotional volatility that destroyed the masses. To execute this, you must protect your own internal ecosystem. You must ensure that the Ding Fire does not hypnotize you, and the Wei Earth does not dehydrate your spirit. You must recognize that the ghost light of 2027 is constantly trying to rewrite your internal baseline. The media, the remaining influencers, the entire digital apparatus will speak in a hushed, unified tone, attempting to convince you that the new, restrictive, hyper-controlled reality is normal. They will tell you that the loss of freedom is the necessary price for peace after the fire. They will try to convince you that you have always been chained. You must reject the gaslight. You must retreat to your analog archive. You must touch the heavy, physical books printed in the old city to remind your nervous system what objective truth feels like. You must maintain your physical vitality. While the rest of the world is suffering from the atrophy of the digital panopticon, you must continue the ATP dump. You must lift heavy iron. You must sprint. You must generate your own physical heat to counteract the cold, ghostly energy of the year. Because the sovereign mind is the only light that matters in the year of the ghost. The masses are walking into the dark, led by machines. perfectly content to become phantoms in a world they no longer control. They have surrendered their kinetic energy, their legal autonomy, and their historical memory to the King of Terror. They are the ashes, you are the anvil. You do not mourn the burned forest. You use the cleared land to lay the foundation of the citadel. You do not pity the exhausted, compliant herd. You use their silence as the operational cover to finalize your total, unyielding grip on the physical assets of the board. The fire horse burned the illusion of the old world. The fire sheep buries the dead. Let them sleep. Let the ghosts haunt the empty servers of the digital coliseum. Let the algorithm memory hole the weak. You remain awake. You remain heavy. You remain completely, terrifyingly real. The explosion is over. The conquest has just begun. This is Prescient. We are watching the ashes, and we are calculating the physics of your absolute, silent empire. On this channel, we cover a wide range of topics similar to this one. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, we may never see each other again. See you again soon, dear viewer.